There are new developments tonight in the Russian investigation, but first an update on that devastation and the cleanup from Hurricane Irma. The death toll in Florida has climbed to 12 as residents continue to survey the damage from the storm. The devastation in the Florida Keys is still not fully known, as access to all but the closest islands remains closed. Officials say a quarter of the homes in the Keys are destroyed. We'll have an update in just a minute. Now to the Russian probe. And with a body of evidence that's growing by the week, the investigation threatens to cast an all-enveloping net around the president's advisors and associates. Now there's a new sign the special counsel's probe is honing in on the Trump campaign in the search for potential evidence of collusion with Russia. The Daily Beast reports today the Trump campaign has begun handing over documents to Bob Mueller. It's a development that suggests that a conclusion to the probe may not be all that near. Trump's attorney John Dowd says the campaign is in total cooperation with Mueller on the matter. While it's still soon for Mueller to reveal any findings, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist Ann Applebaum makes the case in the Washington Post that circumstantial evidence of Russian collusion with his campaign is already available, and direct evidence is getting very, very close. Amid multiple new reports about the astounding reach of the Russian disinformation campaign on social media, Applebaum raises key questions that now confront Mueller. How did the Russians behind the fake American accounts know which real Americans would be most excited to read conspiracy theories on Facebook? How did Trump happen to use the same conspiracy theories that were proliferating on Russian media, both real and fake? There's also new evidence that leaders in Russia itself acknowledge and even now take pride in their campaign to subvert the U.S. election. Catch this. Speaking on a political panel over the weekend, a member of the Russian parliament, the Duma, boasted on live TV that Russian intelligence was more powerful than American intelligence in this case. According to The Hill, he said that intelligence missed it when Russian intelligence stole the president of the United States. I'm joined now by a member of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Eric Swalwell of California, and Applebaum is the Pulitzer Prize-winning author and columnist with the Washington Post, and Betsy Woodruff is a reporter with the Daily Beast. I want to start with Ann. Take a couple minutes. I'm really impressed by your column because it connects a lot of dots, a lot of points of light, to use the Bush term, that sort of puts it pretty clearly as an enveloping curtain, if you will, that does capture a lot of the argument that you would need to show collusion between Washington and Moscow.
Yeah, well, I think it's fair to say that we now can see what a lot of the motives were on both sides. We know that it wasn't just disruption in the U.S. There were groups of Russian oligarchs, businessmen who wanted to see sanctions overturned in the United States, and they sent a lawyer to discuss that. That was the lawyer Veselnitskaya, who came to discuss with Paul Manafort and Jared Kushner and Don Jr. A few months ago. We know the motives of the Trump campaign. We know now that Trump was actually negotiating to building a Trump Tower in Moscow during the primaries and well into the campaign. And I think with the latest social media evidence that you referred to, we now have a much more concrete conversation of something that I saw last summer and found mystifying, which is why was the Trump campaign using the same kinds of language and the same kinds of conspiracy theories that I could see on Russian media? Everything from Obama-founded ISIS to Google search engine is helping Hillary, to Hillary will start World War III. These were the kinds of things that you could see on Russian media, on Sputnik, which is a Russian website, on RT, which is a Russian television station, and you could also see it on Russian language media, too. And now we know that there were actually fake websites owned by or founded by Russians, which were propagating those ideas and which were also buying ads on Facebook to promote them. There's an example that came up in some of the evidence that was revealed. For example, a website called Secured Borders, which was very focused on Idaho, which had 133,000 followers and was trying to organize anti-immigrant protests in Idaho. This was a Russian website using American language and trying to involve itself in American politics in a very concrete way. Now, the question is, how did Russians know to target Idaho? How did they know which accounts to look for? And that's, I think, the question that the Mueller campaign the Mueller investigation needs to explore now.
What about spotters? I mean, I agree with you. It makes sense that they must have known how to embarrass the DNC by putting out all that hacked material. They knew how to embarrass Podesta, how to embarrass Palmieri about the religion stuff. We know those very interesting little landmines that went off. They knew where to go to break up the landmines, to ignite them. And we also knew the same thing with these ads. They knew where to run the ads, where it would have the most impact. But do we know they were Trump people as spotters? Could they have? We know one thing. What always amazes me, how RT can always hire some American to do something. There's always a lot of free-floating, unemployed people out there that will go to work for RT. And I assume, based upon the sounds of the names, Sputnik as well. How do we know they're Trump people that are these American spotters?
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that yet. But it is fascinating how InfoWars and Breitbart and RT and Sputnik were all saying many of the same things at the same time. And then Trump was repeating them.
Yeah, well, let me go right now to what do you make of this now?
It's a really important development, particularly on the front of what these Russian actors were doing, not just to push information that was fake, but actually to push Americans to take action during the campaign. Daily Beast has reported extensively on this Daily Beast has reported extensively on this secured borders
Did people
group.
Actually show up when they were told
in
to?
Idaho, there actually was a rally that Americans attended that Russian actors had been pushing on. That's an extraordinary fact.
They used Facebook methodology.
They used Facebook, and Facebook has confirmed to us that Secured Borders paid for ads that it used as part of this campaign. They've confirmed. Facebook knows this happened, and it's just sort of fascinating.
I'm amazed. Congressman Swalwell, I think this piece of information keeps adding more and more information, but I am impressed by by what's going on here with the Russian Duma. When you have a member of the Duma bragging about how they influenced our elections, it's like when I heard recently, a couple months ago, that there was a Julius and Ethelbert high school over in communist Poland. I said, well, maybe they knew something about spying that we weren't sure of. So in this case, you've got them bragging about how they screwed with our election. Are your Republican colleagues as in the know as the Russian Duma members are? Do they know what's going on, or are they still denying it?
Well, first, we just need the president to accept.
Nunes, I don't know what he's up to, that guy. He looks like such a homer for the Trump crowd in the White House. First of all, he does that midnight ride of Paul Revere, shows up down at the Eisenhower building, grabs some stuff, then shows up at dawn the next morning in the West Wing saying, I got some hot stuff. He just got it from the same guy who then sends a staff guy over to work on your committee. So one of these characters working at the White House has been dumped on your majority staff there. What do you make of that?
Yeah,
do you think that's
Chris,
fair ball?
Maybe because a Russian government official said it, the president will finally accept it. On our committee, I have not seen the acceptance that Russia interfered in our election, and we have a responsibility to do something about it. And when you look at the eagerness and willingness of the Trump campaign to work with the Russians, we have more smoking guns than Bonnie and Clyde. We have that evidence that they were willing to work with the Russians. The question is, did it materialize to a working relationship? But what I'm afraid of, Chris, is nothing sharpens the knives of the Russians more for a future attack than disunity among our investigation. Nothing will strengthen our shield in a future attack than having a report that understands what Russia did, identifies who was responsible, and makes reforms so it never happens again. We don't have that right now.
Are you confident that your committee, the House Intelligence Committee, is going to break this case, crack it?
It's so troubling, Chris. It's like watching your favorite football team complete a 20-yard pass, and then the next play you have a 10-yard sack. That's what the obstructive behavior from the chairman does when he issues subpoenas without even working with us. But we brought in a lot of witnesses in the last few weeks. We have a lot more this month. So I hope we get there. We need more yards than we lose, and so far that means Trump and the chairman staying out of the way.
You make it sound like it's mistakes, but I'm not sure it's mistakes. I get the feeling your chairman is hiring some Trumpster from the White House to help quash this investigation. That's what it looks like. Is that what's going on here? Nunes, is he working for the inside? Is he working for the defense here in this case?
He's being obstructive. I don't know what his motives are, but it keeps us from being able to do our job.
What do you think his motives are?
Well, he was on the transition team, and I hope he left the transition team to lead our intelligence committee. And right now, by having any staffer affiliated with the Trump White House, that threatens our independence. I hope this staffer can separate his prior work with the White House. But again, our job is to report to the American people what we're doing to make sure this never happens again, and not to have an asterisk on our report.
Yeah, what do you think of this, Betsy? Because I don't think I see a lot of confidence there in the unified effort to get to the truth here. I see a lot of questions and hope that somehow these people that work for Trump, that were now working for the committee, this guy, and that Nunes, who seems to be working for Trump, is somehow going to turn around and prosecute.
There's obviously already significant skepticism about Nunes's committee and the work that they're doing.
He's the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. He's the hope we have. The member of Congress there, Mr. Swalwell, just talked about hope. Our hope lies in a Trumpster to get Trump. I mean, that's a pretty thin hope.
I would point out this is why Bob Mueller's special counsel probe is so important, because there aren't any alumni of the Trump transition team working on it. This is why what we've reported today that you mentioned is so crucial, that the White House claims that they're cooperating with Mueller's probe and that they're turning over documents in the process of still producing more information for Mueller. And it's so important that Mueller has his own investigation, given the mess
I agree with
that's
you on that. I have a lot more faith in Mueller than I do on the Hill. Anyway, Trump not only spoke favorably about Russia amid their influence campaign, he also praised WikiLeaks, the website that served as a conduit for Russian hacked material. Discussing the circumstantial evidence of collusion in an interview with USA Today, Hillary Clinton said Trump mentioned WikiLeaks 160 times just in October last year, before the election. 162. She asked why. Why is he pumping up the importance of WikiLeaks, which is working with the Russians? Let's take a look at some of those examples.
By the way, did you see another one? Another one came in today. This WikiLeaks is like a treasure trove. This WikiLeaks is unbelievable. What we've learned about her and her people.
Oh, we love WikiLeaks. Boy, they have really, WikiLeaks. They have really nailed it a lot.
Boy, that WikiLeaks has done a job on her, hasn't it? I'll tell you, this WikiLeaks stuff is unbelievable. It tells you the inner heart. You got to read it. Now, this just came out. This just came out. WikiLeaks. I love WikiLeaks.
You know, I've got to get back. I get back to Ann Applebaum and putting this all together. You have a great ability as a columnist to do that. I want you to try to put together the fact that there you have Trump as a candidate, basically trying to seduce WikiLeaks, just wooing them on television again and again, saying how great they are, the work they're doing and helping with the hacking of the Democratic National Committee and all the rest, and basically saying, I want them to get, I wish somebody would give me, over in the Russian side, give me some of that Hillary email stuff. I mean, he was openly not just flirting, but attempting to seduce the Russians into helping him as they were helping him.
Well, and let's remember what WikiLeaks did. WikiLeaks leaked an enormous amount of information stolen by Russian hackers. You mentioned a few minutes ago that Russians bragging about this sort of stuff. Actually, Putin has made a couple of references. He said something about, well, you know, there may have been some patriotic hackers who helped us out, you know, wink, wink. They've more or less conceded that these were Russians who hacked it, who handed it to WikiLeaks, and it was WikiLeaks who leaked it. So, yes, that was an open piece of collaboration. And one more point. It's worth remembering that this is something that the Russians know about. They've done it before. They've used leaked material before to interrupt others' election campaigns. They've used tapes. They like using secret information because they've understood something psychologically important, which is that people will become fascinated by any secret information, any leaks, even if they're banal. And let's face it, most of the stuff that came from Hillary Clinton's campaign was banal. It was, you know, garbage that anybody sends anybody during a campaign. But it was you know, created into a million conspiracy theories, spun into Pizzagate. You know, this is something that Russians know how to do and have done before.